But you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation. So thank you. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And go HU and go Harris. Thank you all.
Cedric Richmond, top advisor to Kamala Harris, used to be top advisor to Joe Biden in the White House, basically telling people at Howard University, where Vice President Kamala Harris was going to have her celebration party, theoretically, that Kamala Harris is not going to come out tonight. She will come out tomorrow and address the nation, which I guess is what we could expect, given the fact that we're not going to know definitively this evening the results.
If you've ever been to Howard University when there's a big crowd, that is not the sound of a big crowd there. That is not a celebratory mood, and I think that was a tough kind of coming out conversation for Cedric Richmond.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 2024 version of the Javits Center at this time. I'm not saying that it's going to end that way, but at this time, it's feeling like it's too early, and the senior person comes out and says, everybody go home and we'll see what happens, and we will see what happens when we get the rest of the votes. But
in the immortal words of Bob Dylan, you don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind is blowing.
Right.
And this very much felt, I mean, you know, we talked before about whether this felt more like 2020 or 2016. This felt so much like the Javits Center, and specifically her campaign chairman, John Podesta, came out at almost exactly this same point 8 years ago and made almost exactly that same speech. And the next day, Hillary Clinton came out and conceded. Now, again, he is not at 270 yet. She has not lost this race, but you don't have to be a weatherman.
Right. And just to go over where we are right now, so there are 7 battleground states, and we have called, CNN has called, projected that Donald Trump will win 2 of them, North Carolina and Georgia. So of the 5 that are remaining, there's Arizona. Trump is in the lead currently with 0.72% of the vote. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is in the lead with 2.6% of the vote. Wisconsin, Donald Trump is in the lead by 3.53% of the vote. And then there's Michigan. Donald Trump is in the lead with 6.12% of the vote. There's also Nevada, which I don't see on that list there, and I haven't committed it to memory, but there wasn't enough really percentage of the vote that had come in yet for us to be definitively saying anything. In any case, the point I'm trying to make is, of the 5 battleground states that are outstanding, Donald Trump is currently in the lead in all 5 of them.
And in a place like Nevada, the demographics are something that is more favorable to them. That's an electorate that has more male voters, more Latino voters, and those are 2 groups we're seeing who are leaning towards him.
And I just want to go back to, even though we don't know where the blue wall states are yet, we're still waiting for votes to come in, some of the underlying themes that we are seeing that, Audie, you were talking about a little while ago, that I think it's important to go back to. One of the things that we started out the evening with was about the women, the question about whether or not women were going to come out for Kamala Harris, whether or not men were going to come out for Kamala Harris in a post-Roe world on that issue. And if you just look at, for example, suburban women, they, according to the national polls, they went for Trump.
It seems like abortion was not the animating issue it was the way it was right after the Dobbs ruling. In so many of these exit polls, I'm seeing that the economy, the people who are most upset, listed themselves as angry or facing severe hardship, those are the people who really went for Trump.
Yeah, I have to confess that I always thought in the last week or 2 of the campaign, this idea of the trying to appeal to secret voters was something of a risk. Anderson?
Jake, thanks very much. This is the first time we've all talked. David Axelrod, what do you make of what we've seen?
Look, I think that this was a race that was very, very close in the polling, and for the longest time, including up until last night, I and others said we had notions, we had feelings, but we weren't going to make any predictions. And the truth is, we're sitting here tonight and we're waiting for the 3 states that can determine the race one way or the other to render a verdict, and they're close. And she's right to wait to have those votes counted. But what was very clear watching the night unfold is that rural areas voted for her in significantly less numbers than, or percentage-wise, than they did for Joe Biden 4 years ago. And she could make up the difference in some of these suburban areas and the cities. And I think the discussion that John King had was very pertinent. I care deeply, more than I can say tonight, about democracy and what it means. I've said it a million times, I'm the son of a refugee, and I revere this country, and I'm so grateful for what it's given my family and everyone else. But part of democracy, and this is my major difference with Donald Trump, part of a democracy is to honor the will of the people, to honor its institutions. And I imagine that that's what the vice president's going to do when the final verdict comes in, if it's not a positive verdict. And I think there is a message in that. Yeah. There is a message in that. And I think it's an important message.
I think the reality is Kamala Harris faced tremendous headwinds heading into this. I was riding on a bit of a vibe, in a sense, in the final stretch, because she did feel like she had energy. But the fundamentals have been against her from the outset. Biden's unpopularity was dragging her. She had opportunities to create distance with him, and I think chose not to. I think it's a respectful thing. You don't want to throw your boss under the bus. But the reality is Donald Trump was going to blow Joe Biden out of the water, and she needed to create that distance. There's also just some fundamental shifts that I think are happening, a realignment with the parties and within the country, and I think...
All right, let me take this back to my guest on the broadcast, James Russell, who continues to be with us. James, we were just learning of, where are the stakes really in favor of Donald Trump at the moment, and how most of the people there at CNN, also our colleagues, talking about how the unpopularity of Joe Biden has dragged Kamala Harris, and that's really speaking much about her campaign. In fact, for her campaign manager and one of the senior person from the Kamala Harris campaign really coming out there and saying that she will not be addressing the gathering at the Kamala Harris HQ really says a lot. And while we learn of that, we are also learning how Donald Trump is already headed to that watch party, and his address to his supporters is almost imminent.
Yes, right.
Mr. Russell.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think this is what's happening, obviously, in the evening in the United States, which is that the Democrats are going down in flames once more, and Trump is going to ascend to the throne. It's a replay of 2016, very much so, and so this is what you would have expected to come out of the Harris spokesperson, and it does not. They haven't been getting any good news all night. There were all kinds of hopes coming into this election evening that she was going to be close in places like North Carolina and Georgia, and the truth is they weren't. And there was this hopeful poll in Iowa the other day that happened. She got swamped in Iowa. And so what is there to say about this for our casting for dictatorship, which is what it amounts to, and a convicted felon, a grifter, an incompetent businessman who doesn't have the best interests of the American people at heart, and they've given him license for another 4 years. That's what it looks like, and I think it's an absolutely extraordinary event that says not very much about Donald Trump, but it says a lot about the state of the United States, that is to say, the state of America. And it's not a flattering portrait of the United States in any way, shape, or form. It's a very depressing sight to think that the millions of people sign up to this vision of America that's divided and that is going to be going after immigrants and that is against women. I mean, the list of things just goes on that the people of the country are apparently comfortable with. And what I would say is about it all is that the American people are going to get exactly what they deserve with Donald Trump coming into office.
Mr.
And
Russell,
he's going to
you said it exactly like it is, because you mentioned about the women. They seem to have voted for Donald Trump. You mentioned about the immigrants. They seem to have voted for Donald Trump. And that's how things really stand over here. Two of the key battleground states have already been called. They are going to Donald Trump. Only 5 of them remaining. And most of where Donald Trump, in fact, all of them has Donald Trump really leading. In fact, hold that thought. We will go into a very, very short break and come right back. We do know how Donald Trump is already on his way to address that watch party there at the Donald Trump HQ.
$1,242 vote lead.
He suggests, as far as the electoral map is concerned, it says 227 in the red.
I mean, look.
Sorry. Sorry. Yes, Tara, please go ahead.
I think it's like always they say, you can't be an astrologer in politics. It never takes place the way you want it. But to be frank, I'm not for Trump, so I'm hoping Kamala Harris picks up on this race. She could go ahead in Pennsylvania, because that is, well, I would expect it should, because it is a state where the causes which she's flagging seems to matter. But then it's, the whole, what shall I say, you've got Trump saying that climate change doesn't exist. I mean, how can you even say that? He's saying the most incredible things. He wants to build, building the wall on immigration is probably something that will appeal to voters, because it's a very, very strong issue here in terms of the, kind of, and.
But Tara, the fact that you say that Iowa has voted in favor of Trump, and there is a huge amount of Latino vote bank over there which did not vote in favor of Harris.
That's what I said. I said even Indians are voting in favor of Trump. They should not, right? By all logic, they should be for immigration, but they're not. So I think much of it is to do with the fact that, the economy, like everyone says, is the economy stupid? That's at the center of this debate. People want a better life, like she said. That is not coming across in Kamala Harris' campaign. She's talking of, middle class, which is very important. She's talking of bringing them up. But he's saying front and center, we have to make America rich again. I'll tell you how to get rich. That is his central message. I mean, it's not in so many words, but that's pretty much what he's saying. So I think that and plus, of course, foreign policy doesn't come into these polls at all.
Yes.
Nobody cares. So it's all about, like we said, jobs and so on and so forth. I don't think even climate, anybody cares. It's not even an issue here. But taxes, yes. Education, yes. Housing, affordable housing, all that is, Trump is tick boxing in very unreal, some of them. I mean, if you look at the Trumpometer which someone has put up, he hasn't kept most of his promises in all these areas, but he still wins. So even if you look at the businesses, after that huge violence which happened and everybody condemned all that, all those guys have gone back to Trump. So it's finally, like they say, it's about the money, honey. It's who's going to put money in whose pockets.
Interesting point, Tara. Thank you so much. And also, Nikhil, I'd request you to stay on with us. Let's go back to CNN's live broadcast and see what are the latest projections really showing, because CNN recently has just called North Carolina going in favor of the Republicans, Donald Trump.
Of illegal immigrants north is now being felt as an issue, not just on the border, but in northern states as well.
Yeah, and Jacob.
History in the making, because after 2016, just in these years' time, you are seeing a return of Donald Trump to that presidential chair. We also know how the key swing states, out of the 7, 2 of them have already been called. They are in favor of Donald Trump, just 5 of those remaining, and most of them, in fact, all of them, sees a lead by Donald Trump. In fact, taking this to CNN as far as the latest projections are concerned, let's cut across live to our sister channel CNN and learn about a lot that's happening there.
287 electoral votes. There are 270 electoral votes, as always, needed to win. Let's look at the states we have not called yet. In Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead there still, 51.1% of the vote, ahead of Kamala Harris, who has 47.8% of the vote. Trump leads with more than 214,000 votes. That's with an estimated 92% of the vote in. Michigan now, Donald Trump in the lead, 52.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 46% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 215,000 vote lead. That's with 62% of the estimated vote in from the Wolverine state. The Badger state of Wisconsin now, Donald Trump, 51.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.2% of the vote. Donald Trump, more than 113,000 votes ahead of Harris with an estimated 86% of the vote in from Wisconsin. In Arizona now, Donald Trump in the lead there too, 49.9% of the vote. Harris with 49.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 12,000 vote lead. That's with only 52% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. Still a lot of votes to count in Arizona. Nevada now, they've really counted a lot of votes. Donald Trump, 50.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 33,000 vote lead. That is with 70% of the estimated vote in from Nevada. Last time we looked, it was only 2%. John King, look at that. Your buddies in Nevada reporting their votes there.
Well, you know, last time it took a very, very long time. So if they're starting to get some in tonight, that's progress for Nevada. I just want to show this. This was a conversation you guys were having over at the panel table the other day, just on the importance of Pennsylvania, as we're at this point now, where North Carolina and Georgia have gone for Trump. You see the yellow of the states still on the map. Now, we project Alaska is going to come in for the Republican. If that were to change, that would change these paths. But there is no path to 270 for the vice president that does not include the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So, yes, she needs to win all blue wall states to get there. That would get her there on its own as long as she wins Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. But there's no way to get there without Pennsylvania, which is why that is absolutely critical that she win there. I just want to show you what I mean. Let's assume that she came back and won Michigan. She's trailing now. Let's assume she came back and won Wisconsin. She's trailing now. She's trailing here, and she's trailing here. Even if she won them all, if Donald Trump won that, he'd be over the top. And so, you know, if she is winning this, she can afford to lose something else along the way. But because this is why we've talked about this for weeks, and that's why both campaigns spent more money in Pennsylvania than any other state, Commonwealth by far. The 19 electoral votes, 19 versus 16, 19 versus 11, 19 versus 10. It just affects your path to 270 math in such a profound way. So as you look at where we are now and you come back out into the latest vote count right there, Pennsylvania is paramount. That does not mean the other ones don't matter. Just winning Pennsylvania wouldn't be enough to get her there either. I'm just saying she can't win without Pennsylvania. Donald Trump can. Donald Trump can, but she cannot win without Pennsylvania. And so if you look here,